So one of the most common questions that I come across is, how do I improve my verbal score? I have been preparing for quite some time now, but haven't been able to do well on verbal. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 simple steps that will help you improve your verbal score. Okay, so let's get started. So what's the first step? The first step is you need to know your current performance in the various modules. Okay, whenever I say modules, I will always mean SC, CR and RC. Okay, so you need to know where you currently stand in the 3 modules. Now how do you know that? The best way to do that is, if you have your GMAT ESR, that gives you the breakup, so you can look at the ESR to know where you stand. Or you can also look at your GMAT prep mocks. Okay, that will also give you a good idea. Now if you haven't taken any mock or taken the GMAT in the last 30-40 days, I would recommend that you take up a credible mock test. It could, if you have a GMAT prep mock, that's the best thing. But if you do not have one, you can take a credible mock test, maybe Manhattan or Veritas. Look at those mocks and your scores. Or you can also take sectional tests where you take 20 questions from each of the module with a good representation of easy, medium and hard questions. So take a mock test or 20 questions from each module and see what are your scores in SC, CR and RC. Once you know your current performance, then you should move to the second step. That is to categorize your modules into 2 categories, okay, which is your weak areas and your strong areas. You need to do that in the second step. Now let's take an example to understand this. So let's say that we have student 1 whose score in SC is, let's say, 70%. His score in CR on the other hand is 40%, and his score in RC is, let's say, 60%. Okay, now let's take another student. Let's take student 2. Student 2 in SC, his score is, let's say, 80%. In CR, his score is, let's say, 50%. And in RC, his score is, let's say, 90%. Okay, now how do we categorize his modules into strong and weak areas? It's pretty simple. All you have to do is create a clear-cut demarcation between them. And the easiest way to do that is create a 70% benchmark to categorize which module gets into a weak area and which one gets into the strong area. So for student 1, for example, if I look at the various areas, CR will be in his weak areas, okay, and RC will be also in his weak area, while SC will be in his strong area. Now what about student 2? For student 2, CR will still be in the weak area, but SC and RC will be in the strong area. Okay, now why do we choose this number 70%? What is the rationale here? Because when in modules where you have less than 70% accuracy or percentile in general, the main reason for that is you are lacking in concepts as well as the approach that you follow to solve the questions. However, in your strong areas, you are generally lacking in approach. Your conceptual knowledge is still much better. Okay, so once you have categorized the modules into strong and weak areas, you need to go to the third step. Now what is the third step? The third step is you should focus on weak areas. Okay, so very important thing, remember, you take up one module at a time. You do not work on 2 things at once. So in case you have multiple modules, let's say for first student, CR and RC are 2 areas in which he is weak, he needs to follow the sequence SC, CR, RC, this order. So out of CR and RC, he should do CR first and then he should do RC. Okay, so whichever is applicable in whichever module is there in the weak areas, he should follow this particular order as much as possible. So CR followed by RC is what he needs to do. Now what is the approach for weak areas? It is very simple. First thing that he needs to do is he needs to take up one topic at a time. So for example, if you talk about CR, he needs to probably take up inference first, then take up assumption and so on and so forth. So just take up one topic at a time. For example, if you take up inference, learn the concepts. The idea is you first learn the concepts you understand what inference questions are all about. Then in the second step, after you have learned the concepts, what you need to do is you need to solve easy and medium questions. Remember, do not solve difficult questions at this stage. Just focus on easy and medium questions. And the idea is to feel confident on them at least. And when you're solving these questions, ensure that you're following a methodical approach. Do not randomly apply the concepts that you have just learned. So follow a proper approach, which is going to help you going forward. So once you are feeling confident with easy and medium questions, you need to take up the difficult ones after that. Okay, so take up the difficult questions and take your learning to the next level. So you follow this particular thing for all the topics that are there in CR. Once that is done, then you will take a sectional test in CR, and I'm sure after taking the sectional test you will be pretty much confident. Now even after taking the sectional test, if in any particular topic you have less than 70% accuracy, revise it again. Okay, so this is how you work on weak areas. So you do this for CR, you do this for RC. Once that is done, you move to the fourth step. Now what is the fourth step? Fourth step is to focus on your strong areas. Okay, now how do you focus on your strong areas? Remember, the core reason why you are weak in strong areas is because you are not following the right approach. So in order to improve there, you need to follow the right approach. So I strongly advocate that in SC you should follow the meaning based approach. For CR you should follow the pre-thinking approach, and for RC you should follow the involved reading approach. Okay, so these are the three approaches that you need to follow for these particular modules. Now I have already shared some posts on CR and RC. You can go through them to understand how to follow the approach. I'll be sharing some posts on SC really soon. So when you take up your strong areas, what you do is you identify 50 questions. Okay, take up 50 questions. Don't solve them all at once. Solve them one at a time. Solve one question. Ensure that you're following the approach on that question. You're following the right approach, following this approach, and do not time yourself. This is very important. Do not put any timing pressure. Follow the approach. Ensure that you apply it. Look at the solution. See whether you're able to apply the approach properly. In case you haven't applied the approach properly, identify where you faltered, where you went wrong. So spend time on every single question. And let me tell you, if you follow this approach, and if I plot your accuracy against the number of questions that you attempt, you will see that from the very beginning, you will be at a very high accuracy level and it will keep on rising. On the other hand, if I look at time required per question against questions, then you might as well in the beginning take maybe 3 or 4 minutes or maybe 5 minutes to solve a question, but with time per question will come down. So this is gonna happen with you, but you need to believe in this process. So do not time yourself. Focus on the methodical approach, applying the methodical approach on this 50 questions, and you'll see a significant improvement. Also, in your strong areas, you are not supposed to have conceptual gaps, but there might be a few conceptual gaps. For example, if let's say SC is your strong area, you may still have some gaps in verb tenses, for example. So just you can revise the concepts over there, but remember the most important thing that you need to streamline in this case is your overall approach towards questions. Okay, so this is the fourth step for success. Now what is the fifth step? The fifth step is to follow the right test taking strategy. Okay, now test taking strategy in itself is a big discussion. I'm going to have a separate video on this, but very quickly I'll tell you that GMAT is an adaptive test, so you need to understand how the test works, and the most important thing there is that you need to get the first 15 to 20 questions right. You need to have a very high accuracy on the first 15 to 20 questions because that sets the pace for the upcoming questions. So focus on the right test taking strategy, and I have a separate video on this later on. So these are the 5 steps for success for verbal. Understand your current performance, categorize the areas into weak and strong, less than 70% weak, more than 70% strong. Focus on your weak areas, take one topic at a time, solve easy and medium questions, then go to difficult ones, take a sectional test, see where your weaknesses are still there, improve on them. Then go to your strong areas, focus on the approach. Don't time yourself, solve 50 questions, you'll see your accuracy increasing, time decreasing per question. And finally, focus on the right test taking strategy. Now, another question that students ask me is how much time do I need to focus, spend on verbal improvement? So I'll give you a simple formula. For every 1 point improvement that you're looking at in your verbal score, you need to spend anywhere between 10 to 12 hours. Okay, so let's say if you are targeting to improve your score from V25 to let's say V36, you are looking at an 11-point improvement. So you are looking at anywhere between, just multiplied by 12, anywhere between 110 to 132 hours of prep time. That is what you are looking at overall. Okay, now one more thing that you need to do is, in case you are targeting any score beyond V38, it's a high score, so just add 20% more time to this. Okay, so if you're, let's say, are at a level of V30 and you want to go to a level of V42, that's a 12-point improvement. So ideally, when you multiply it by 10 to 12 hours, it becomes 120 to 144 hours, but you just increase the time by 20% more. So if you add 20% on top of it, you end up with anywhere between 144 to 172 hours. Okay, so you can calculate your time required in this way. So all the best. I hope this strategy helped. You can create a study plan based on this, and I'm sure you'll succeed. So measure the current performance, categorize into strong and weak areas, focus on the weak areas, then focus on the strong ones, and finally focus on the right test taking strategy. So enjoy learning. Thank you.